To follow my friend, the member for Strangford, and it's also a great honour to be a participant in this debate and to give thanks for the service and sacrifice of the generation of the Great War. And I've been thinking a lot in these hours about my grandmother's brother, Harry Blakemore, who as a boy signed up in the August of 1916 to the Shropshire Yeomanry, a young man from Small Heath in Birmingham, and ended up in the Cheshire Regiment when on the 28th of February 1918, he was killed in action on the Western Front. And I have the good fortune to be old enough, Mr. Speaker, like many others in this House, to have actually known the men who served on the Western Front. And these old men of my boyhood had already outlived their biblical apportionment of 70 years. And when they said anything about the war, it was only to speak of their pals and the horror of it all with no detail. As has already been said by one of the honourable gentlemen opposite, my constituency of Stirling has a long association with the Argyll and Southern Highlanders, and that regiment gave extraordinary service to this country. But Stirling is also a remarkable place for this reason, that the 4-3 Squadron of the Royal Flying Corps was established and headquartered in Stirling. In fact, the Scottish headquarters for the Royal Flying Corps was actually the Station Hotel in Stirling. And to this day, Stirling retains its proud links to the Royal Air Force and honours the successors of those original men in their flying machines. Of interest in Stirling over the last few years has been the way that the Stirling Observer has reported the 100th anniversary of the war. Each week they have reproduced reports from the time, bringing to life the way that Stirling was during the Great War, and it has been sobering. The Stirling Observer reports that tourists travelled from all over Scotland to come and see the new flying machines of the Royal Flying Corps based in Stirling, but they also printed week after week lists of casualties with pictures of young men in uniform. The newspaper talked about shortages and inconveniences at home. And it's been a remarkable act of remembrance in itself by the Stirling Observer. And I'd like to put on record my thanks to John Rowbottom, the editor of the Stirling Observer, and his team, because they have provided for Stirling a remarkable and telling memorial. And Stirling's contribution to the war effort was not insubstantial, and the number of people in each of the war memorials in all of the villages of Stirlingshire gives some sense of the sacrifice made by families. But there are two individuals who I would like to mention today. The first is Lieutenant James Huffam. I recently had the honour of attending a ceremony in Dunblane to honour the 100th anniversary of the actions that led to him receiving the Victoria Cross for bravery. He rushed an enemy machine gun in France, crippling their attack, and under heavy fire he withdrew carrying a wounded comrade. And later the same day he led another attack, capturing 8 prisoners and allowing the British advance. And I'd also like to talk about 772 Private William Ebenezer Monteith, whose daughter Margaret Davidson I had the privilege of accompanying to the service of commemoration that we held earlier today in St Margaret's Church. Private Monteith joined the Seaforth Highlanders in 1910 and was one of the British Expeditionary Force, among the very first to be deployed in 1914, and they were called the Contemptible Little Army, the Old Contemptibles. They would proudly identify themselves as, because of the way the Kaiser had described them. And Private Monteith was soon captured at the retreat from Mons on the 26th of August 1914, and he spent the rest of the war as a prisoner of war. And he escaped. He felt it was his duty to try to escape, and he escaped from at least 2 prisoner of war camps at Westerholt and subsequently at Friedrichsfeld. And he was recaptured each time. But during the separation from his family, they did receive a letter, and the letter is reported in the Stirling Observer. And it says that what he says in the letter is that the food is inadequate, and he concludes his letter with his favourite battle cry, they reported, "Roll on, bonny Scotland." His battle cry, one that we can echo to this day, "Roll on, bonny Scotland." This story and many of the others of this generation tell of service. They put themselves last, putting service to their family, their community and their country first. And those who answered the call and those who were separated from their loved ones all served equally, and we will remember them. And Lieutenant Huffam and Private Monteith, they both came back from the war, and they went on to live their lives, to marry, to have families of their own, have careers. They gave us the country that we have today. And in honouring the sacrifice of those that they served with but who did not return, we also honour them. It is our duty and our privilege to honour their memories by seeking to stop such sacrifices being necessary in any future time, and also to build a country and a world which they could feel proud. In this place every day we are reminded by the great titans of Parliament. They have statues around this building. I'm grateful that on Sunday we will all stand before memorials etched with the names of those who have given us the country that we have today. And such is our heritage, and such is the price of our...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.